Let's go ahead and compare the iPhone 16e with the iPhone 10R. So we got a super new budget device with the OG original budget device from years and years ago. Can the iPhone 10R still compete with the new hardware? Let's go ahead and talk more about it. So we got the iPhone 16e priced at $600. It's the new lowest priced iPhone in the iPhone 16 family. It pretty much takes over the now dead iPhone SE, but it's actually more than that. The hardware is a lot better, a lot more modern, and it's the price point of $429 is done. We got premium tier prices now for all iPhones, but this is the cheapest one. It's not $800 like the base iPhone 16 or the $1,000 iPhone 16 Pro. On prepaid, you can find this one for like $300, so this is a good deal price-wise. The iPhone 10R, if you remember from 7 years ago, this is a 7-year-old device. I think it's still a really, really good device, and it competes very well with the iPhone 16e. But originally, that phone was the same thing as the iPhone 16e, but that one was priced, I believe, at $700. And if you really look at it, the iPhone 10R and the iPhone 16e, they got both single cameras on the back. So let's get more into it. So we have the $600 iPhone 16e with the now 7-year-old, where you could find the iPhone 10R for about, I don't know, $130. But I think it still competes very well. So build and weight, both are quality devices, glass front, glass back, but the iPhone 16e does weigh less than the iPhone 10R. The iPhone 16e doesn't have a nano SIM card slot, it's eSIM only, unlike the 10R, which has a physical SIM card slot and an eSIM. So in this case, the 10R is actually better in that regard. The 16e is better at dust and water resistance, 6 meters versus 1 meter on the 10R. Software, the 16e has the new iOS 18. It'll get 7 years of updates, so this is a good future-proof device. On the other hand, the 10R, surprisingly, it does have iOS 18, but it's probably not going to get any more updates. It had its 7-year run of updates, but it's very surprising and very nice to see it still competing software-wise as the newer iPhone 16e. Since these are 7 years separating both of these devices, the iPhone 10R cannot really compete with the A18 chip that's in the 16e. That's the same chip that is in the regular 16 and the 16 Pro. So that's very powerful. The 10R is on the A12 chip, very old chip, and it still works for everyday devices today, but yeah, it's getting long in the tooth. Storage wise, the 16e has double the storage at 128 gigs versus the 64 gigs of storage on the 10R, but I think 64 gigs you could still manage. RAM, we do have a big difference of RAM. The 16e has 8 gigs, just like the 16, just like the 16 Pro, but the 10R has a measly 3 gigs of RAM, and that really, really is old. When you flip these phones over on its back and you see it from the back side, they're not that different. They have that single camera. This is the 16e really showing it like an old school look. It's 48 megapixels. It takes really good pictures and video. It's awesome, but it's not that much better than the 10R. The 10R has a single 12 megapixel shooter, which is good on its own too, and both of them shoot in 4K. So yeah, you're getting good quality for both of these phones. Selfie camera is 4K on the 16e versus 1080p on the 10R. You got Bluetooth 5.3 on the 16e versus only 5.0 on the 10R. I don't think it makes such a big difference. Now for the screen, when we're looking at the front, they look very similar. Both are 6.1 inches. Both have the notch, except that the 10R is just a little bit bigger than the 16e, but they seem like, they were released around the same time, even though they're 7 years apart. and that 6.1-inch display, they're both at 60 hertz refresh rate. They're not ProMotion, they're not super fast, so the screen and technology has not improved since the 10R to the 16E. Now for charging, big difference. That's going to be a very big change for a lot of people, but now all iPhones have USB Type-C. With the 16E, it has that. Very universal, very flexible. Now you could charge all your devices with the same cable. The 10R has the lightning cable still connector on it. So yeah, that's one big difference between old technology and new technology. And next, we have Face ID to unlock these devices. Very fast, very fluid. Nothing's really changed in the Face ID department. Maybe it's a little bit faster on the 16E, but you know, it's 7 years apart and we still haven't, you're not getting anything special now. Last but not least, but very important, is the battery life. The 16E is a killer in the battery department. It is awesome, 26 hours of video playback. Apple boasts it is the best, longest lasting battery of any 6.1-inch iPhone. Comparing that to the 10R with the fresh battery, it had good battery life. You can get almost all day battery life, but definitely the 16E with the new C1 modem from Apple built in the house, that one, yeah, you cannot compete with that battery life. It is insane. So in conclusion, it is kind of crazy that the 10R actually competes very well with the 16E in the looks department. They both have that single camera in the back. They were priced around the same. The 16E is actually cheaper than the 10R. People haven't really mentioned that since Apple announced the 16E. It's not really a SE. It is like when the 10R launched. It was kind of a weird phone. And looking from it, they both have a notch on the front. They both have the single camera on the back. The real physical difference is the USB connector and the lightning connector at the bottom, and everything else is internal. The screen is the same refresh rate, but the internals, you got more storage, you got more RAM, and you got a newer processor. The three most important things in a phone, that's what's inside the 16E that makes it so much, so compatible, so powerful. But people aren't really gonna see that just by looking at the devices. So actually, I do think that the pricing is right on the 16E because this is a future-proof device. The 10R launched with at $700, but it was launched 1 year after the original OG iPhone 10 with that bezel-less design, all-screen design. So yeah, it's kind of weird. It's like a big throwback. It's like iPhone did a remix of the iPhone 10R and made it the iPhone 16E and scrapped the SE line. And pricing, I'd rock an iPhone 10R today. If someone gave it to me, I wouldn't have any real complaints. It definitely is usable, and Apple pretty much is sticking to the same playbook of using older hardware and selling it at a weird price with newer internals. That's about it. So the iPhone 10R really competes very well with the iPhone 16E.